So, hello, welcome to another episode of Flying High with Flutter. I'm your host, Alan Wyma. Today we have a amazing guest. It is Vadym Grin. Welcome, Vadym. How are you?
Hello, fine, thank you. How are you doing?
We are broadcasting this episode, but seems like the live stream is a little bit off. But in any case, you're still live, so hopefully we'll have some interesting questions from the audience. We're here to talk about your book, Emotional Digital Design. Is that the right name?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, okay. I had to just make sure. I know it was emotional design, but I then I remembered, oh, there's a digital word in there. What is there really like a big reason why you had the word digital in there? Because I mean, emotional design by itself is a pretty big topic.
There is a reason for that. So there are so many books on design itself, and father of the notion UX design, Don Norman, for example, like he wrote a book on which is called emotional design, as far as I remember. But it was all about like how we use things in real world in offline, and how can we be frustrated because of like tiny things that, yeah, when our expectations are not met. So, and I was thinking that, I'm a digital product designer, and I dedicated like 13 years of my career specifically to digital products. And having my master's in social science and also like being fond of psychology, I was like, okay, seems like combining everything, experience, knowledge, skills, and my desire to make this world better, and also to teach upcoming new generation of designers and give them all the tools to make this world better. And I was like, okay, probably time has come for this kind of book where we will concentrate specifically on the digital world, because digital world grew so drastically lately, right? So we are overwhelmed with all these informational flows, etc. So, and you need to know as a designer, what are your tools to get the user's attention, and how you can solve really their problems with your products, but also make this product in such a way that users will feel good after using it, right? So, and this is basically what this book is about.
I mean, emotional design, right? Do we really want our users to be very emotional about our product? Because emotional, I mean, that to me that has more of a negative connotation to it. I mean, it depends on how you
I
see it.
see.
Do we want to drive emotion, and what kinds of emotions do we really want to have from our users?
That's a very good question. So when you think about this from the user perspective, then you think like, oh no, I'm using that product just to solve a problem that I have, and just give me a tool. However, from the business perspective and from designers perspective, we want our product to stand out from our competitors, right? There is this business environment, and if you're making, I don't know, let's say another app to learn a language, you need to you need to propose a new solution. It should be easy, it should be smooth, etc. Right? So it should be easy on the user, and it should solve that problem, specific problem that users come with which they come to your product. But to stand out, you need to build this emotional involvement. Otherwise, your product will turn just into another app that I installed on my phone and I forgot about it. That's it. That's the usual story. Or that I used occasionally, just, yeah, for example, when there is no alternative or something like that. When we talk about products that drive behavioral changes, we need to motivate users. We need to give them sometimes a positive reinforcement, right? So there are different things that we can propose to make their experience better, pleasant, so that they can feel that, for example, I don't know, creating a new habit it's not a miserable action that I need to do, but a pleasant action that I want to do. And that's the whole difference, right? So that's the kind of experience that we want to create for businesses and for our customers as designers.
Okay, that definitely makes sense. I mean, design is such a complicated kind of thing. I was just kind of running through your book right now, and there's so many pieces when it comes to designing something. How do you kind of start off when you start to design something? Because I mean, I do work as a designer, and I'm trying to think. I feel like things almost always come from the most basic elements, right? Like about the colors,
Hmm.
and they just start kind of building upon each other. So you start from colors, and you go to like maybe the logo, and then from there you start to have more about like, okay, what is the product actually doing? What's it supposed to be? What's it supposed to give you the kind of feelings? And then you start to kind of take elements in design, which then kind of reinforce that. Is that kind of how you do design work?
Of course, it's not that easy as you have described. So here I probably need to go back to the guy whom I already mentioned, Don Norman. He actually proposed the concept of three levels of emotional design, or we can say also three levels of good design. There are different concepts, but his concept is applicable to digital products in particular. So the first level is called a visceral level, and it's all about the first impressions. It's about like when you see, let's say you see a banner as a user, right, as a potential user, and it resonates with what you're trying to solve, like with the problem you're looking for a solution for that problem. You decide to install this app. You are there, or we can talk also about the website. It doesn't really matter what kind of digital product we are talking about here. The thing is that we are as users we land on this product, and we have now a couple of seconds, sometimes even just milliseconds, to understand if this product worth any further investigations. Like if it does it worth to go deeper and to learn more about it, to use this. And this first impression, it's all about the UI design. It's all about how it looks and how it feels, like what kind of vibe it gives to you. So that's why the good design starts from the first impression. And of course, any product designer, UX UI designer, we also start from the when we start to learn design. It's all about colors, how you can mix them. It's about iconography, typography, what kind of types you can use as a pair and what will not work, etc. So it's all about balance. But there is a deeper level into that. This is where psychology comes into this game. There is a branch of psychology which is called Gestalt psychology. This is a branch of psychology which learns how we as human beings perceive visual information. I will give you a very like light example. When you look in the sky, right, and you see the cloud, a random cloud, and then you think about that. Oh, this cloud looks like a face of my ex or something like that. This is your brain trying to put chaos into something that it can understand. So cloud itself, it's nothing. It's pure chaos. It's the water, right, and stuff basically, and that's it. So when we see things that we don't understand, we immediately, our brain wants to categorize it, to put it on the shelf basically, and to understand, okay, what kind of association I can give to this thing, even I don't know what that exactly is. So and this is even we say like to close the gestalt. So to name something, to give it a name if something we don't understand, or to finalize the action that we started, for example, and haven't we didn't manage to accomplish yet. So And Gestalt psychology gives us as designers different tools to organize the UI. So, for example, the way how we treat screens, they are not random. For example, because of the eye tracking technology, we can now understand how people scan information on websites or on mobile screens. And then we know that there are different patterns that people use, our brains use, based on the content that we see. For example, you go to Google something and there is this layout where you have just a list of things with descriptions, and we know for sure that the from many activities like research activities, eye tracking studies, etc., we know that first and second link is something that almost 100% people will pay attention to. And then there is these that might be fourth and sixth, etc. So depending on how keen you, like how drastically you need to find an answer, you will either go deeper into that, turn the page, and so on. But there is a pattern called F pattern. So if you visualize letter F, that will be exactly how we scan the Google results page. Like first line, right? Maybe first two lines, then we go down another line, maybe fourth, fifth line, and then we go down again. And it depends on the content, like what kind of pattern we are going to use. But we as designers, like we know, if we know all these patterns, then we can pick the certain layout for the content to make it easy on the user to scan the information. And there are also like other things that we can arm ourselves from Gestalt psychology specifically. For example, like it's all about like putting everything into a clear way, and digital products, it's all about, it's not about beauty, right? In the sense as we understand beauty usually when we talk about art, something that impresses us, right? When we talk about beauty in the digital world, it's something that is easy to grasp, easy to scan, easy to understand. So, principles of Gestalt psychology and how we can organize the information, grouping some components, or vice versa, for example, making them bigger, smaller, or putting them on big distance from each other, etc. That's what helps us to design clean interfaces that are easy to understand. And that's just first level, right? So there are two more. Behavioral level, it's all about the usability now and the functionality of the product. So now when we say, like, as users, we say like, okay, this looks good, I will go into it. And we start to explore, and we now are in the middle of this journey of solving our problem, and it now depends how easy and fast I can find some functions to solve that problem. A particular example, when you buy Alexa Dot, for example, from Amazon, and you install Alexa app, you open the app and it feels good. The design of app is good. It's like it plays safe. There is nothing that will surprise you, nothing that will, there are no out of the box solutions or whatever. It just gives you exactly what you need to set up your Alexa Dot. And then you face like, and the experience might be smooth, might be not that smooth because of some technical issues, but the design itself gives you all the, like, it's smooth to go to the home page and settle. Now let's imagine you need to connect your Spotify account to your Alexa. You want to listen to your, I don't know, playlist on Spotify. That might be a hassle. You need to understand the notion of a skill now that Alexa has. It's not like you just go to Spotify and you just say that, okay, this is my external speaker. I want you to play music on this speaker. You need to teach Alexa to use Spotify. Then you go to Spotify, you connect your Alexa dot, right, and then different things might happen. There is an issue with the account, the skill that you found the skill but you didn't turn it on. Maybe you said the phrase and then you changed it and Alexa didn't get it to launch exactly the Spotify and so on. So your experience might become not that good in terms of like using the functions. And then some like the third level is it's called reflective level or cognitive level. It's basically about it's the aftertaste that we have and the whole analyze that we make in our head, maybe even unconsciously after using this product. This is the moment like of truth. It's the moment when I make a decision: do I love this product or hate it? Or it's just sufficient enough to solve my problem and I will stick to these because yeah, it's okay. But the chances are high that if something better will appear in the market, I will just go and use that product, right? So there is not that high emotional involvement and so on. So as designers, we work on these three levels, right? So visceral, creating clean, easy to understand UIs, behavioral, when we think about user flows, when we think about like where and how you can find a certain function. And with my example, it's like really hard to find how to connect Spotify in Amazon Alexa. And then the reflective level, it might also it's the whole experience of your communication with the brand, not only with the digital product. So might happen that you just didn't manage to install Alexa app at all, and you go to technical support, and your conversation with Amazon technical support will be part of your whole experience of yeah working with this product, and then you will say like okay, that the moment where the decision is being made. And we have different tools to work on every level, right? So I described Gestalt psychology for the first one. For behavioral level, there is another branch of psychology called behavioral psychology. And the thing that I mentioned in the beginning, reinforcement learning, there are different things like soft incentives or personalization, which is or gamification. This is all about creating functions that help users to work with this product better and to feel something about that product. And in the end, the cognitive level, right? So there are also practices that we use from cognitive psychology and that we can apply to the whole user experience. One of the examples might be well known cognitive biases, right? And if you don't know what's that, even if you are not a designer, I encourage you to Google what's that cognitive bias. It's just information that can help you just in your life and even when you observe any kind of information use. But when you're aware of cognitive biases, that can save a lot of nerve cells and your mood. So yes, this is how it looks like for a designer. This is how we work. So it's really yeah. I talked a lot about that, and that's the sign that it's just not about moving pixels around. It's there is so much more behind the curtains.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot in there, and I mean, as a developer, it's hard for me to understand. Like, of course, I know, when I work with the app and I know it's good, I can feel it. I know what's going on. But as a developer who's kind of working on my app, maybe I'm a one man band. I have to pull all this stuff together, and I have a coding background.
Mm,
Is there any kind of tips that you would give to somebody like that about how I can start to really design an app with my limited understanding of design, because you're already working with some people with Flutter now in terms of you're the designer, they're
yeah.
programming Flutter. Do you have any tips for how I could do something like this if I have no background like you?
I mean, the main thing and my advice, and this is something that I try to cover in the book as well, but yeah, book is also limited. There is a technical limitation in size and so on, but it's all about more about communication. It's all about our soft skills as developers and designers. And the main problem here is that like we I don't know, is it the nature, part of our DNA, when we tend to work more in a silo mode, and like we are we are concentrating too much on our own tasks, and then the main issue that might happen is that as a designer, let's imagine I designed something and we agreed with my PM that it looks good, it feels good, and solves the problem. Now let's go to developers and find out what it will cost to us to develop these and to bring these designs to life. And then developer says that it will take us, I don't know, 4 months, and we're like, whoa, why? Because we're using Flutter, for example. This is what you showed me. It requires like probably switching from material design to something else. This uses different frameworks and so on. So what we really need to avoid is the situation like this. We need to include developers as designers early on in the stage of designing something, maybe on the level of wireframes when we're just playing with the flow, trying to understand how it's going to work. So the input, and maybe designer is not aware, it depends on the company size, it depends on culture, etc. So there are different cases, but this input that stick to Flutter, for example, right? So it will help to create these designs faster. The only thing that you need to use these icons from this library, right? This is our library. This is how it works in Flutter. So some educational part from your side, like teaching designers what Flutter is and how it works, might help to build things and to work with designs faster. And vice versa, designers, as I have said, like we need to be cautious and we need to remember always that we need to include developers early in all these conversations. It's still an often case when designers talk purely to PMs and design something afterwards, and then we realize that yeah, actually in code it's a different thing. So it's not that much about frameworks. It's more about communication. So my main advice for developers is just you don't understand and you will never probably go that deep into psychology of colors or cultural differences, where to use black and white and so on, because in different countries it has a different meaning. And it would be very interesting to see, for example, I don't know, an a funeral agency company in black in some Asian countries using black because like black is not the color of um, funerals or death, etc. It's more about Western cultures. In some countries in Asia, it's more about white being that kind of dramatic color. Anyway, so you as designers, like we don't have that time. Like Flutter, for example, is one of the frameworks, but there are so many there are so many other frameworks we need to be aware of, but we can't go really deep and produce good code. So we leave it to you guys. Simultaneously, similar to designers, like you produce the code, and the experience part, like how it looks and feels, we are giving that as an output. But again, the main thing that we need to work and to remember to work as a team always, because like the quality of the product at the end, it's all about our common efforts, right? Designer alone will not build a product. Developer alone probably also, it can be a product, right? But it will be, yeah, not that easy to use, for example, and not that beautiful maybe, and not that smooth. But yeah, in the book, this is this is one of the things that I'm paying attention to: collaboration between designers and developers.
Yeah, that's a really good point. When you were talking about like, oh, this is gonna take us a long time, and why is that? I actually ran into this before quite a few times, and like you said, that's when I got the idea, which you just talked about, which was okay. We need to actually talk as the design's happening because
Yeah,
as you're creating the design, obviously it's easy for you to say, okay, if we can't do this, then we can do that, as opposed to they go in the corner, they work on it, they come back,
yeah,
they say, okay, here's the design, right?
yeah.
It's the
And
same
there
with
is then
developing
this
code.
constant
Yeah,
back and forth. Yeah, 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 yeah.
that makes a lot of sense too. Now, the default kind of design, or I don't know what you would call it now, within Flutter, which I think you know already know, is a material
Mhm.
design, right?
Yeah.
Now, can material design be something very easy to work with in terms of like be able to get emotional, bring that emotion out, and be able to hit all three of those different levels that you've talked about?
Absolutely. I mean, material design is just let's say, from the design perspective, it's the platform that we will build on. This is something that we will leverage on the first level, on the visceral level of design. We can use the material design frameworks, we can use all those icons, etc., and we can play on the fact that actually that's a very known style, right? So most of the Android apps, for example, built on material design, but also you can see this in web, right? So plenty of products use material design, and that's actually quite good because we also, as human beings, we have this tendency or desire, let's say, to use those patterns that are already known to us. So as an example, when you open any kind of online shop, you can immediately understand that's an online shop because it has the same layout, and you will see the basket in the top right corner. The icon might be different, but it will be there, and you can immediately understand this metaphor of the basket. Then material design, from the aesthetical point of view, it's good enough to make a good first impression. So we are done there on the visceral level. It's all good. Now it's all about the flows, like the easiness of use, etc., and navigating the product, right? So we also, as designers, we have other things in terms of like visual things like illustrations, right? We have animations, we have interactions, and what we also shouldn't forget, it's the content. The words that we say to users, it's also very important in terms of the emotions we that users will have when they read this text. So content design, and there is even now a separate profession for content designers, content design. It's extremely important as well. So it's not only about icons and colors, but yeah, answering your question, basically, the material design, it's a very good platform to satisfy all the needs on the first level of design, on the visceral level, and then build on top of that. It's a very solid ground for that.
Okay, that's I mean it's a good thing to hear because yeah, I mean just remember like a lot of designers from this is I mean a long time ago. Material design's been out for what at least a decade now. Just a
Yeah,
lot of designers kind of saying, "Oh, it's not that good. It's not that great." If you compare to Google before, sure, it's a million times better in terms of when they kind of came out with it. But
yeah.
I think over time the feeling has started to change, right? Where people are saying, "Okay, actually, it's got a lot of good use because this and that." It's more on a practical level rather than a very attractive kind of level, right?
Yeah, it also depends on the company resources. Let's be honest with that. So, I mean, if you give me the power to go crazy and to build a product that is not restricted to material design, let's say, I would still consider other things, maybe even something like custom icons, custom fonts, etc. But the thing is that then we face like, okay, let's imagine our startup, and we build a startup, right? And we said like, okay, let's create something really cool, emotionally appealing, and so on. And we did something like custom, and you coded it, and we turned to be a successful startup. Okay, now the question, how we're going to scale this. We are going to launch another feature. We are going to launch feature B now, and then C, and so on. And then we grow, and then we can't maintain that kind of product without a design system anymore, because now we have not one designer working on that, but 10 designers, and not one developer, but 100 developers. We definitely need something like a guideline to follow to maintain the quality. Designers are like, we love to talk about consistency in design because it may improve the usability, and it does, right? So when you know that the this color is responsible for the action, for example, and you are sure that it's always like that, then you feel safe. But let's take a look again on Amazon, or I don't know, Meta, or other big corporations. When you are in Facebook and you are on your profile page, and then you are going into another part of the product which is under the roof of like Meta's roof, the business cabinet where you want to promote your post, it looks absolutely different comparing to the you know your usual Facebook experience. Like the business profile, it's I guess it's another team that is taking care of that. It has its own history and its, I'm sure, technical depth, etc. So yeah, it's the matter of scaling the business, and it's matter of producing things in a faster pace. So, and when we face with these questions like, is material design good enough to use this as a platform to be fast and to preserve the quality of the product? Yes, definitely. Is this the best design we can have to have an emotionally and beautiful design at the end? No. Definitely there is something better. And again, you can always build something custom that will be amazingly gorgeous, beautiful. But as product designers, we don't think, and this is the main difference between us as someone who works on digital products to solve user problems so the business can grow and can scale and earn money. And this is the main difference between us and other types of designers, like even graphic designers and especially all other designers like in offline world, because usually design there it's perceived like an art, and you as a designer, as an artist, you can express yourself and your feelings, etc. When you create an image, you draw it, etc. Right? So it's nothing like that in our work, right? So it's all about algorithms, it's all about patterns, it's all about how fast we can build this product and to deliver it to end customers. And in the end, we are those who can build bridges between end customers and product teams and business at the end. That's our primary goal, let's say.
That's a really good point. That came to my mind. Like, yeah, I often see very exquisite designs, right? And I can tell that you're somebody who's been designing for a while, worked in at least a couple of companies, because yeah, I think with any job, you're gonna want to kind of put your heart into it, put your soul into it. But as you start kind of going in your career, you start to think about, well, sure, we could always do better. We could always be better. As a designer, you say we could make these really
Yeah,
awesome, interesting, intrinsic designs. As developer, we can make this thing scalable so it can handle the whole world traffic. But at the same time, it's not practical, right?
yeah.
That's a
And I guess
really, really,
also,
yeah.
yeah. On top of that, it's also what makes a difference between a junior product designer and like designers on their later stages of career. Usually, and that's a very common case. I see these all the time. People think that, oh, I will create beautiful things So I will go into design industry, into digital design, and I will create interfaces. And they start learning how to design in Figma or in Adobe XD or whatever tool, and they read about interfaces, like how they work, and so on. And they go into some graphic design, of course, as well, like so they can produce some illustrations, and then they add another skill of animations, etc., etc. So they grow as technical specialists in terms of, like, pixel engines. They can move them around, and this is usually 99% of the cases. This is how the any design career begins. And then there is a moment in your career when you understand that, oh, okay, there is business that pays me salary for the fact that the interface is not that beautiful, it's effective. So I don't care about its beauty anymore. I should care about how fast people can solve their problem within this particular screen, and so on. And then your boundaries, you can push your boundaries even further, um, when, for example, you realize that, oh, it can be also an emotional experience. So I will read this book by Vadym Grin about emotional digital design and how to get there. And I will learn psychology, for example. And I guess the complexity of our profession, it's not about being a magician of Figma, right? And I don't know, being good at design systems and creating really flexible components. That's the easy part. The most difficult part is to be able to speak in the same language with our stakeholders, so entrepreneurs, and to speak in the language of metrics that matter for business. Then we go to developers and we speak in the language of technologies, and then the word Flutter doesn't frustrate us and we know what we're talking about, or material design, whatever. And then there is another party that is end customers. And when we go to test our prototype and our ideas, we know how to do that. And psychology, by the way, and all the frameworks that it gives us in terms of, like, how to approach people, especially how to approach those people who are not that in fond of sharing their information or their ideas, and so on. So yeah, when you get these tools and this ability to talk with all these parties in their language, that's the moment when you can say, oh, okay, I'm a senior product designer or even lead stuff, whatever. That makes a difference.
Okay. Let me first ask this question. Is there anything that you wanted to say before we close up? Otherwise, I just have one question for you as a kind of a parting thought.
Of course, I will take this moment, to promote the book. And I will just say that if you're a designer or a developer, but especially a designer, of course, or even you're just in the digital industry, in tech industry, this book will definitely, it will, push the boundaries. This is exactly what I mentioned before. It will give you a broader vision of what you can do, and it will give you tools like how you can apply this into your work. And my main mission was that, different authors or like teachers, mentors, there is this sentiment or intention to teach people what do you know, like to pass the knowledge, right? And so they can go through your way, right? Like repeat this way and be successful as you are as a mentor, for example. And I was thinking, like, okay, how can I teach others? How can I give all these tools so they can move through their career ladder faster than I did? So like, if I call myself back, I don't know, in 2010, when I just started my career, got my first real job, what I would say to myself. And this is like the whole idea of this book. So to give you everything that you need in essence, so you can progress faster. You will spend not 5 years getting from junior to senior, but let's say just a couple of that. That's the whole. That's the mission that I had. And probably the last thing that if you like the content, if you like the book, we also can keep in touch on my Substack, and I'm running a blog. I'm quite active there on my Substack. It's called Ada's Design. Adas is coming from the Plato's idea of it's actually the word idea from Greek. Plato believed that there is a world of the ideas exists, and our mission as human beings just to take the right idea and to put it into the beautiful shape. And shapes are different, but the idea is just one. Is an example, like for example, when I say word table, you can imagine a wooden table like standing in your kitchen, etc. But I can imagine a table made out of metal or whatever. So the implementation of the idea can be different, but it's the idea of a table. So and yeah, on my Substack I share content with about the best practices for designers and also psychology, different tricks that you can apply in your designs to make it easy on the user, to make these interfaces more scannable, and also of course like thoughts-provoking essays are there, and there are different ways of different formats. So I hope everyone can find a proper one for themselves. I guess that's it.
Yeah, that was similar to what I was going to ask you, just if you had any kind of like, you know, suggestions, but it sounds like you already filled that part in. And
Yeah.
of course, buy the book. The book is definitely something I think it's good to have. It's always good to have these kind of books. I mean, everybody's expecting like a how to, okay, do this, do that, but there's just like you heard from developers, I'm sure all the time. Well, it depends. It always has so much. It
Yeah,
depends, right? So, but giving you the idea so that you know what things depend upon what will definitely help a lot in the long run. So, Vadim, it was great to meet you. Looking forward to. I started your book, haven't finished it. I need to finish it because I think I need some more design sense, and maybe I'll be able to start to understand my own designer just a little bit more. Because
nice.
sometimes we butt heads, but through that we make great products.
I see. Yeah. Good luck with that. I hope the book will help you with that. And yeah, likewise. And thanks for having me today.
Thank you for coming on, and maybe we'll have you again again in the future.
Yeah, hope so.